Let's talk about always having the long run in mind and about taking proactive action. Today I'd like to share an exciting story about a Japanese tradition and how we can learn from that, especially in terms of leadership and strategic thinking. Now, would you say that cutting down 10,000 big and beautiful trees on a regular basis could be reasonable and sustainable? Especially when you consider that each of those trees needs up to 400 years to grow. So why would you be chopping those down? In fact, this is done in Japan every 20 years. Ise Jingu is one of Japan's most sacred shrines, first built more than 2,500 years ago, and it's all made of hinoki wood, which is a Japanese cypress tree. And for the building of that shrine, about 10,000 of those hinoki trees are needed. And then what happens every 20 years is that the entire shrine is torn down. And after basically destroying that shrine, it is completely rebuilt again from freshly cut timber. And then it's largely being constructed using the art of kigumi, which is a special technique of joining wood pieces together without the need of any tools or nails. Now, why would you destroy an entire shrine so often? I mean, hinoki wood can actually last hundreds of years, so there seems to be no obvious reason for that exercise, which is of course consuming a lot of time and resources. Well, the rebuild I just mentioned is actually part of the so-called Shikinen Sengu ritual. The main purpose of that ritual is twofold. First, by going through that entire reconstruction again and again, the skills and the expertise are handed over to the next generations. And that's why it's happening in those regular cycles of 20 years. So it ensures an accurate reproduction for many, many more centuries. And none of the skills are getting lost. The second reason is that this rebuild also symbolizes the cyclic nature of death and renewal, which is a belief rooted deeply in Shintoism. Actually, I like this fascinating story, especially the handing over of the expertise over generations. I mean, think about the Pantheon in Rome. The Pantheon is an absolute masterpiece of architecture, which was also built around 2000 years ago. And the interesting thing is that until today, it remains absolutely mysterious how they managed to make it thousands of years ago. Well, unfortunately, the Romans back then did not hand over their skills and secrets to the following generations. And this is why, to this very day, architects and historians around the world are still puzzled about the build of the Pantheon. So you see, the rebuild of the Ise Shrine is actually a really smart move by the Japanese, isn't it? But how about sustainability? I mean, isn't environmental care a major topic of our time? Let's have a look at that a little bit more in detail. In fact, after every disassemble of the Ise Shrine, the woods are completely recycled and being reused in many, many other areas, mostly for things like other shrines or building bridges, sometimes even for furniture. And through that, every freshly cut tree remains in shiny use for hundreds of years. And in some areas, it's even being used for more than 1,000 years. So I'd say we covered recycling and the long-term usage here quite nicely. Now, how about the trees? I mean, entire forests are actually cut down every 20 years. Well, the reality is, after each rebuild of the Ise Shrine, new hinoki seeds are immediately planted. It basically looks like this. In the very space where the trees for the new shrine were cut, the next beautiful trees immediately start their growth journey for a rebuild, which will then happen in maybe 400 years from now. I mean, that's what I call a really smart just-in-time production by the Japanese. And they started that already a long, long time ago. So with this, they really ensure sustainability on top of showing some serious long-term thinking, I'd say. So what is our takeaway from that story? I'd say one of the key learnings is to really think about the long-term effects of our actions today. And also to plan not only for the short-term impact for us and for our business, but also to plan for what is still to come in what sometimes seems to be the very distant future. A related example in business life is that we often see a clash between a reactive short-termism in many of today's marketing organizations on the one side, and on the other side, the strategic aim for long-term business growth. Often in our daily business, we hear things like, oh, we don't have time for that at the moment. We cannot pave the way for something we might need in 3 years or so. Or people are saying, hey, budgets are tight at the moment, we cannot afford to invest into what might perhaps bring us some return in the future. Well, how about breaking up that narrow silo thinking? How about starting things today to be ready for what we need in a couple of years? That doesn't mean we should neglect what is on our plate short term. I mean, yes, we need to take care of current urgencies the business requires. But if we miss out on planting the seeds today for the trees which we want to harness as a business in the future, well, then filling the gaps and trying to catch up in a couple of years will be much more expensive for sure. And maybe we're even losing out on a lot of opportunities altogether. Let's think about surfing for a moment, which I think fits also quite nicely here. If you want to catch a wave, you don't start the paddling only when the wave is on top of you. I mean, even if you're the strongest surfer on the planet, you will never ever catch a wave when you start the paddling just at the moment when the wave reaches you. Rather, what you do is you watch the ocean, you evaluate the condition, you prepare, and then you start the paddling with full commitment. And afterwards, you can enjoy riding the beautiful wave. And even before that, you need to make sure, of course, that you're in the right place at the right time. Let's slice it down into 3 pieces. I mean, this is what you need to do in order to be a good surfer, and we can also relate to that in the business life. So step number 3, that's the actual surfing. That's basically what you do short term. You execute and you leverage on your preparation. But before that is number 2. You need to be ready, judge the condition, and get the timing right, and then paddle with 100% commitment. And all of that only works if you completed step number 1 before, which is being in the right spot, understanding the forecast and the condition, having the appropriate equipment, and also being fully trained for the moment when the wave comes. Now, if you put all of your focus and energy only into step number 1, so the actual surfing, then you will end up being that guy swimming in the water and watching the other surfers enjoying their rides. Also, the Easy Shrine can actually be broken down into 3 steps. So number 1 is planting the seeds to be ready in 400 years. Number 2 is cutting and preparing the timber, as well as teaching the next generation about the skills and the techniques. And then there's number 3, the actual kigumi making of the shrine. Now, what does that mean for our business life and our roles in leadership? Well, the surfer is doing steps 1, 2, and 3, one after the other usually, and then hitting repeat. It can be slightly different with the long-term beauty of the Easy Shrine and also our daily work life. So we have the chance to split our energy and our time into each of those 3 steps and do things also simultaneously. So for example, the actual surfing in our business life, that's the execution and leverage of our preparations so we can get wins today. So for example, you execute your marketing campaign, pulling it fully through with 100% commitment, and also ensuring the follow-up and working with sales, and then turn it into profitable revenue. Then, while the surfers are paddling, in business, you're preparing for your next move. Know where your customers are, be sure about the value you create for them, and also be ready for any kind of surprises by the market or competition. And then there's the long-term strategic thinking. Think about the seed planting of the hinoki trees in Japan, which means you develop your future business model, you invest into the necessary resources, and you get trained for having the skills and the mindset needed for the day after tomorrow. But we should also be careful to not overthink what we sometimes have a tendency to do, I think. Yes, we should of course observe, listen, evaluate, and prepare. But the future, I would say, has hardly been predictive so far. So experimenting will also enrich everything we plan and do. I mean, even the smartest and strongest surfers sometimes paddle and will still miss a wave or 2 or even wipe out every now and then. But okay, experimental mindset is a topic for another episode. So investing our energy in a smart way into all those 3 steps today, that means we will not be the poor guy in the water watching the others surf. Instead, we will be ready and successful and will ride the business waves with a big smile on our face all the way to the beach. By the way, just coming back to the Easy Shrine in Japan, if you're honest, did you make a judgment after hearing my first 2 sentences about it? I mean, let's face it, in our today's world of short-term attention spans, we have news hysteria and also click obsession and things like that. We sometimes have a tendency to make premature judgments, don't we? My take is, even in these times of information floods and rapid changes, it might occasionally be a good idea to let others speak out and also look carefully at what is hidden behind the headlines and also to investigate the backgrounds. And also, maybe the most important thing is, let's allow our opinions to get challenged and sometimes even get busted. Now take all of that, add a little bit of thinking, and we might end up with some surprising discoveries for ourselves and our business. Perhaps this takes a minute more, but I think we'll make better judgments and of better quality. And even if not, the process of studying and thinking can also be nice in the long run and help us grow. Think about it. So thanks for listening. If you're interested in receiving more thoughts, go to silocrusher.com and sign up for receiving some more inspirations.